All right.
Right.
Ken Dost,
so,
my friend.
About the first,
Yeah.
Hello. Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah. We are going to talk about patents. We're going to talk about the Bar Association. We're going to talk about the relationship between the patents and the Bar Association. We're going to talk about what these guys are doing behind the scenes. This will give you, hopefully, a bigger view in the end, once you study these, of exactly how this system works. And once you get that, you'll start to put some of the pieces together. It's certainly doing it for me. Put some of these pieces together so that we can trace what happened, how it's happening, and how we can find remedy, find tools to get through this in the correct way. So tell us what you have, and let's go from there. And I'll try to ask questions, intelligent questions, as we go along. Not sure I'm getting it right now, but I think I will.
Ask a lot of questions. Yeah, ask a lot of questions so I don't get down, get off track or anything. I'm going to keep me on track.
Okay.
Really, what this is about really is to get people to understand the philosophy behind it, and it really is a philosophy. It's a sophisticated series of processes that was intentionally withheld from us, and it was intentionally withheld from us. And this is what's so blatant about it. It is very, very blatant, because what they've done is they've laid a solid layer of deceit. And they are knowingly deceiving us into believing that there is a mortgage loan product out there that is ordinary course transaction. Mm-hmm. And of course, we fell into that because that's the paradigm. The paradigm used to be, you save your money, you get 20%, you get a down payment, you get a mortgage loan, and you pay that mortgage loan off. And of course, if you default upon it, they have a right to come in and foreclose upon it. And that's all well and good. But what they've done here is very brilliant. So you have a bunch of guys here that go back to the Federal Reserve Act. Now, all of these fractionalizations that we're going to talk about, unborn cattle being housed in stockyards, and co-ops and agriculture, and transportation of goods by air bill, and all these things are maybe it's not abstract to a lot of people, but these are things that were set up when the Federal Reserve Act was set up. So these things have been going on for a long time. What we have here is we actually have a brilliant point in history here, because we can pinpoint exactly what they've done down to the T, in their own words and phrases, and their own products, and their own patents. And so really what we've got to decide here, what we got to get people on the page about, is the court system, first of all. First of all, the court system is operating in international admiralty maritime. I learned that the hard way, and a lot of people are having a hard time learning that. A lot of people are still trying to fight the courts, thinking that they can fight the courts. You can't win in the court system. You don't have the standing yet. You've got to be properly positioned. The judge cannot speak for you. We are operating in exclusive laws of intellectual property. We're dealing with copyrights, we're dealing with patents, and we're dealing with trademarks. Now, they have portrayed a system that is ordinary course. And this is what the Federal Reserve said. The Federal Reserve has said, even the courts have said, well, more the Federal Reserve set it up, that the banks can self-manage themselves as long as they're conducting a public business that is ordinary course. So what have they done here? They have laid in a system that is not in the ordinary course of business, and it's not in the ordinary course of business because we're dealing with processes that we're not familiar with.
But it appears to be the ordinary course of business, right? On the outside.
Yeah.
They've made it appear that way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's a known deception. That's an intentional deception. That's why you see all these foreclosure filings. They're all the same, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
They're all the same. They're not different, and they don't deviate. Now, in my case, I fought HSBC for a couple of years. And no matter how hard I tried, they just ignored everything that I said, because they can't deviate from that. So they got to stick to that line. This is ordinary course. And as long as they stick to that, and of course they do stick to it, then they get away with it. And that's a problem. The biggest problem that we face right now is admitting that the biggest detriment to us is that we're defending against these things in an international admiralty maritime administrative process. The judge, now this is straight under the copyright law. It's very well detailed under copyright law. It talks about judges as royalty administrators, and that's what they're doing. So what you've got to deal with, what you got to come to understanding about is that they took the human being, us, and they did something called securitization. Well, we're under the impression securitization is the pooling and gathering of loans that is sold through Wall Street and then created in a loan trust, deposited in certificates. And that's by and large true. But what they didn't tell us is that they're going to fractionalize us. So they took us and they sliced us into 100 different sections, and they sold us off 100 different times. And actually, it's a lot more than that. So what we have here is we have a system in place where we believe that we've got a mortgage loan transaction, when in fact this has nothing to do with a mortgage loan to real property whatsoever. A mortgage by law is in copyright, and that's what we're dealing with. It's in copyright. What is copyright? Copyright is a work of art. It's a work of authorship. It's a sound recording. It's a lot of different things.
Is it a signature? Is it also a signature?
It is. It's an identity. Okay, it is our identity. It's our common law copyright.
Okay.
So we should do a common law copyright and common law trademark because it's unregistered. It was never registered with the U.S. Copyright Office. Okay, so it stands as a copyright. Go ahead.
Well, are you saying that we should do this in order to protect our own status, our own identity, a common law copyright?
Yeah, we should do that. We should do that in terms of at least protecting ourselves in our state situation. But in order to capture all rights, all the right title and interest, we have to record with the U.S. copyright. We have to put it out. We have to put it into a registration and make a recordation of it, so that we make it clear, so it's clear to all the world who we are and what we are, and that's our declaration of status. That's our declaration of life. Do we also record this at the county level? Do we take this into the county recorder and record it as well, like we do other documents for public notice? Well, I think you got to do a public notice of a common law copyright.
Okay.
And common law copyright is your name. Okay. Now when we're talking U.S. copyright, we're talking a different animal here. You cannot copyright a name. Okay, under U.S. copyright.
Mm-hmm.
Now, incidentally and coincidentally and interestingly, you know, when you see all these assignments, they're all just squiggles. You can never read whose signature it is. It's a squiggle, right?
Yeah.
But under English law, you can copyright a squiggle. Now, isn't that interesting?
No way. Can you really?
Yes.
Seriously?
Yes.
You can copyright a squiggle?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. So,
amazing.
So what you have here? So what you have here? What we have is we got a disconnect. And what's that noise? Is that your noise or my noise?
I think that's my phone going off, but it'll stop in a second.
Oh, okay.
It's done.
I was getting ready to go.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you thought.
Okay. I know. Maybe I better go and shut it off. Hang on just a second.
I don't know. Background noise is good.
Yeah. I don't want to keep it going on though. It's distracting me.
You could play a Grand Funk Railroad on your captain background.
That's what I need. That's what I need. Or Led Zeppelin in the evening. That's a good one too.
Yeah, there you go. Or Fool in the Rain, because we definitely got fooled, and we're definitely sitting and soaked in the rain.
You guys are. It's terrible.
We got a disconnect in copyright between the common law. Well, it's actually sunny out today, so it's good. It's sunny and warm.
Really?
All the rain that came in ended up in my basement.
I spent 10 days in Seattle and got one day of sunshine. Yep. I think we have a delay here.
Yep, that's about, yeah. Well, Seattle's Seattle has one of the highest suicide rates.
That's what I hear.
Because of the rain. Because it's depressed. It's a cloud. It's overcast.
It's all the time, and it gets depressing. Now, my daughter says she's used to it after 2 years there, but I don't think I'm going to ever get used to it. But we did have one day of sunshine. That was it. I don't know how you all do it
Well,
up there.
the summers are. It's not too bad down here in Oregon. We don't get as much rain, but we do get enough. And it does get kind of depressing. But the summers are worth it. But nonetheless, I'm done with Oregon as far as I'm concerned. I've had it with the state.
Gotcha.
I'm ready to go travel the world or something.
Understood. Me too.
But going back to copyright, we've got to disconnect. Go buy an island and go party. We can hire Jamie Dimon. We can make him our bitch. We can make him our margarita bitch. You imagine,
I love it.
Moynihan down there and Jamie Dimon, and just go on, get your little grass skirt going, boy.
Right.
Get those margaritas flowing.
Move, bitch, move.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Have the whip.
Yeah.
Exactly. What you have here is copyright. You've got a disconnect between state and federal copyright. Okay, we're dealing with copyright. I got to like hold on a second. I got to like.
I know we have to stop thinking of that.
You got that softball with this, right? We're on the downward side of this thing. We definitely are. Because we've got, now what the exact process is going to be, we're still working on, but there's going to be many processes to go by. Because a lot of different agencies are just waiting for us to come in. They are. I mean, they're just waiting for us. They cannot take action. First of all, copyright's everything we're dealing with. Copyright's our identity. Okay, yes, that is our name. It's actually the unregistered birth certificate. Okay, it was never registered. It was registered with the various agencies, but it wasn't registered with U.S. copyright. So it's an unregistered copyright.
So it's registered for their use, but not ours.
Well, it's intended to protect us, really. Yes, but it's intended to protect us. See, now when we were born, the record was made, and we didn't know that they were going to turn us into shares of stock, and then when we got our Social Security number to create a bond, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Our parents didn't know that, we didn't know that. And we didn't know that at the age of 18 or whatever age it is in your particular state, that we were to convert that and we were to make ourselves known as adults and basically turn those savings bonds and convert those savings bonds into the stock. We didn't know that. So we go into adulthood as incompetence. And so that's the fine line that keeps all this stuff flowing. That's the issue between life and death. So when people sit there and say that that's their shit, not ours, they're wrong. It's not. Now, you got to understand something here. We are the private equity that drives the economy. We build the bridges. I mean, when you hear private equity, a lot of people think of a bunch of rich people financing projects. Well, the private equity is you and me. We're the private equity. Okay. That's what's driving everything because there is no money, and it's our labor as transmitting utility and our energy that drives everything. Okay, so we're very valuable in that sense. But what they've done though is they've taken us and they fractionalized us. The securitization thing, they sat in a room one day and they said, okay, well, how can we really capitalize this thing? And they derived a bunch of ways to capitalize on it. And this was, first of all, getting rid of Glass-Steagall so they can connect the insurance end of this thing in. Second thing was getting a ruling that they could patent business processes. And then most importantly is the revisions to UCC 9, which is for secured transactions. And secured transactions is what it is. A secured transaction is a fractionalization. It's a securitization. So it's a slicing up of an asset into various types of deeds, various types of different assets, monetary assets that they market as securities. It's marketable securities, whatever value they can put to it. So what they've done is take my property, for instance, up here. We'll stick at your property for a minute. What they've done, I got 5 acres here. Okay, well I have water rights, I own those, and I also have the timber rights, I own those. But what they've done here is they've come in and they've taken those rights away from me, they've sold them to somebody else behind my back without me knowing about it. Okay, well wait a second, what gave you the right to do that? I didn't give you the authority to do that. So now the same thing goes with our identity and our person. And this all does clearly come into a focus when you look at that 1790 Copyright Act. That's very. When I came across that thing, it's like that computer. What's that one computer they found from centuries ago? I can't that name, but that ancient computer, you know, kind of like ding, 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 everything falls in place.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. But see, but that put everything into place for me. All the years of research kind of fell in place with that 1790 copyright. That is our cestacade, because that's maps, periodicals, and surveys, and that's our public persona basis. So what that says is that vendors can go ahead and profit from that, and they're allowed to do so. But when the living man comes forward, he has a right to come in and take that, and everything vests back to that living man. And in the event that somebody has been exploiting it without the permission of that living man, living woman, then there's penalties associated with that. And that's really what that says. And so that 1790 Copyright Act is our humanity. That's our regs. That's our lifeblood. And so what you have is got a public side of that and the private side. The public side, of course, is everything that's in the county records, state records, you know, everything that shows us as a debtor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we are. We're a debtor on that side. Now the private side is the side of insurances, and that's so now you get this is where the problem with law comes in. Now you get a problem with a conflict of law, because when you've got contracts and insurance, they don't mix together, and they know they don't mix together. The courts have had problems reconciling that between the contract and insurance. And they know this. That's
Mm-hmm.
why they worked so hard to get into Glass-Steagall, was to put those insurance, because they have to have the insurance. This doesn't function if it doesn't have the insurance that's directly connected to it. So they needed that. But the UCC 9, though, is secure transaction, and underneath that section is patents, copyrights, and trademarks. And so what they were able to do for the first time, really, was they were able to collateralize us and slice us up and sell us off many, many times over, and put derived value to us. And as long as they can market it as a security and get a value on it and actually sell it on the market or sell it amongst themselves, then they were able to create wealth out of nothing. And that's exactly what they did. You know, there's so many when people are trying to track their accounts, I tell people, don't bother doing it, because you can't do it. There's no way you can possibly track all the spokes here. You know, when you say, and I've taken some heat for coming out against the Vatican, saying the Vatican doesn't own us, and some people have said, oh, yes, they do. Here's the proof that they own us. You know, it doesn't matter. Even if they did own us, even if they owned us 100%, they only own us until we tell them that we don't own us.
Right.
Because it's all tied to the copyright. You're only a slave for as long as you want to be a slave, or you're involuntarily committed to one. And that's what we did. When we signed, and the proof of all this, proof that this is not a mortgage loan transaction, is in that Merged Nations Bank agreement. That's our golden document right there.
That's a freaking bomb. That is a bomb. When I got into that, I thought, oh my God, this is unbelievable. I can't believe it's in black and white, what they did.
Well, you know what they did? Here's what makes me angry about it. What makes me angry about it is that they intentionally set out to harm us. Yeah. They intentionally set us up for failure. And they needed to, and this is the thing that really pisses me off about it, because the people that haven't been caught up in this, and I understand how it plays out. I do. If we would have won our lawsuit, that would have been fair to our neighbor from our neighbor's point of view. Because our neighbor would have thought, well, gee, they got this thing thrown out on a couple missing assignments. That doesn't seem fair. And I understand that. I do get that, because people that can't pay their bills should pay the price for it. However, the question is, who's at fault for that? I mean, if I make a bad mistake, a financial decision, then yes, I have to pay for that. That's my mistake. But when somebody sets me up and makes a mistake and potentially harms my credit, that's a different story. And that's what's happened here, because you don't have remedy for it. You know, you can have and that's what they did. They set out to intentionally inflict harm upon people because they knew they'd get away with it. And they knew that there was no remedy. They knew that. I knew this this began for us back in 2001 with U.S. Bank. You know, when they screwed up and they damaged our credit, and I mean, they really messed it up. And I had no remedy. I mean, I went to the Attorney General. The Attorney General didn't want to do anything. Nobody wanted to do anything. And this was in 2002 when they first enacted the OCC, deregulation, which is all based on, I think it's 1871 National Banking Act. And of course, everything we're dealing with, I might be wrong in the year, but it all goes back to Civil War stuff. All goes back to Blackacre. Now, Blackacre, there's two different definitions of Blackacre. The one is that it was associated with the freed slaves who were given property by the Union. They were given their slave owners property was given to them, and the slave owners came back and hoodwinked them into contracts that they didn't understand because they were ignorant. They didn't understand. They couldn't read. They didn't understand. The slaves didn't understand. They couldn't read. They didn't understand how contracts function or anything. So you had the slave owners come in and dazzle them with their contracts to steal the property back because they were ignorant. And it's the same thing that they're doing here with us. It's the exact same thing. We sat down and we signed a mortgage loan, what we thought was a mortgage loan, and they concealed that MERS agreement from us, which totally recharacterizes the whole transaction. I mean, that MERS agreement, that has nothing to do with real property. I think real property and real estate is mentioned once in that whole 20 pages. Everything else is about patents. It's about fictitious names. It's about trademark. It's about the segregation of accounts and the creation of trusts. It's about all the different various bank accounts and about recordation, not of real property, but recordation and maintenance of copyrights, trademarks, and patents, which is what MERS actually is. MERS has nothing to do with real property whatsoever. That's a farce. That's a lie. That's a deception. MERS is trying to get a common law copyright, and that common law copyright is basically what you're associated with. You hear MERS, every time you hear the name MERS, what do you think of? Mortgage Electronic Registration System. That's what they want us to think. That's associated with mortgages. But what they didn't tell us on the backside of this was that MERS was a registered service mark. And underneath that is where the MERS Nations Bank Agreement is. Now, so what they did was they lured us into nominating MERS, or basically giving exclusive license over our rights, title, and interests under our name, our identity, and all our property, real, personal, and intellectual, past, present, and future. And so that was, we entrusted, well, we didn't entrust it to them. They took it, they lured us into giving it to them. So it's not really infringement at this point in time. What you really have now is you've got an identity theft that's taking place for two different transactions. And this is important because you got a mortgage and deeds of trust, which are associated with real property, which they're recording. But a mortgage has nothing to do with real property in this case. It has to do with copyright to our identity, because that's what we gave up exclusive rights to through the MERS agreement. Make sense?
It does. Now we're talking about actually intangibles, basically. We're talking about things that value associated with a copyrighted asset. Right? An asset under copyright, a derivative.
A derivative, yeah. And a derivative. To clarify, what a derivative is any modification to a copyrighted work that doesn't change the underlying character of that work. Okay, so character is an important word. So what have they done here? They've created patented processes. They converted our signature. Our hand-side signature and our image of our all-caps name to a private and public PKI digital key. And that's really the focus of what we're dealing with. That's the identity theft right there. So what they did is they converted, they stole our identity so that they can go ahead and profit from us through all these patented processes. Now, do we have a right to those patents? Do we have a right to those proceeds? Absolutely we do, because we're the grantor to all these patents. These patents that we're talking about, the subject of these patents is us. We're the cattle. Okay. So what Goldman Sachs has done, they come in and they come up with a bond program, or they come up with some kind of a ridiculous investment to make money on. And the persons that they're using real live people to pay payouts, but their processes are hypothetical processes. So they're virtual world processes for future earnings. So because what you got to remember here is there was never a mortgage loan. Unconditionally, these mortgage loans will be shown through dozens of patents. These mortgage loans are lease agreements, and that we are the actual equity owner, we're the sole beneficiary, and they didn't disclose that to us. They made it appear that we were getting a mortgage loan when we got nothing at all. we gave them us. That MERS agreement is an agreement for involuntary servitude, peonage, and marriage. What it is. I mean, you could see that. I mean,
yeah, I see it.
We did. As we did. So here's the thing. So if that's the case, then if there was never a mortgage, and we also know it's not a mortgage loan for another reason, and that has to do with the IRS. We know for a fact that what happens anytime anybody gets thrown out of their house? About 6 months later, they get a 1099 getting hit with a tax bill.
Mm-hmm.
And where's that 1099 coming from? What the fuck? Why am I getting hit for taxes on this? The reason why I'm getting hit for taxes on it is because you didn't make a claim. So because you didn't make your claim, you get stuck with it. You get stuck with the money that paid out. And who's getting the money? Who's getting the refund for the money? The people who are filing the 1099 OIDs, which is the attorneys and the banks and the judges and all these other people. So they're taking benefit of a prepaid asset that is ours, that should be our refund, not theirs. But see, that's the foundation, the framework for the deception. The deception there is let's let everybody believe that it's a mortgage loan. And that's why all this whining and crying, they don't care. The courts don't care. Nobody cares about don't attack me for this, people, but the courts don't care about biblical verse. They don't care about people's sad story. They don't give a damn, because we're operating in commerce, and all they see, and this is what they do, all they see is you're a deadbeat debtor. You didn't pay your mortgage. We gave you notice of that. We met all the uniform standards that were required to in ordinary course. Remember, ordinary course to show that you had a mortgage loan. You didn't pay on it. We gave you a chance to catch up, and you didn't. So we accelerated as we're entitled to, and now we're closing on it. So as long as they maintain this ordinary course transaction, then they win every single time. Every single time. So it's just, and that's what probably is the most enraging thing for me, because there's no gray area here. It's black and white. The black is it's a bold-faced lie. You flip the coin on this thing, you start reading these patents. It's like this is all intentional. They intentionally set out to harm us, and they have to stick by that, because if they don't, then they break their own trade secrets. So they're the ones that are breaching trade secrets. At that point in time, we don't have any trade secrets to breach, because we weren't party. We were party to these contracts. We were an unknown party to these contracts and these patents. As a patent owner has a right to exploit the patent, and he has a right to exclude from use of the patent. So what they did was they exploited it, but they excluded us from using it. How? By never disclosing to us. By disclosing to us that we're a debtor, that you have a mortgage loan that you defaulted on. When in fact what we really are is we are the actual investor, we are the actual secured party creditor, we are the actual holder in due course. And that's facts. That's pure and simple fact that we've shown very simply. Well, maybe not very simply. You got to understand the basis. The point of this. The point is that there's no way you can win in that court system. You can't do it. Now, and everything we're dealing with here is presumption. And what is presumption based on? Administrative. It's all administrative. They presumed that you gave them all rights to your identity. Well, we didn't presume anything, because we didn't know about it. We weren't informed about it. So Now you could sit there and you could scream fraud, and now say, yeah, it's fraud. It is fraud. But I'm more inclined to stick out my hand and say, thank you very much, Mr. Asshole. You just made me a very wealthy man with your schemes, and I'm entitled to have a reversion of all of that, because once I become a stockholder and no longer a bondholder, everything vests back to me. So you've made me a lot of money. So now, how do you get all that stuff? Okay, so that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with what are the processes we need to do to actually get out of this thing. Number one is you've got to get us out of the court system. Sadly, and what you have to really understand is that you are not a debtor at all. You have accounts. Now, in terms of the birth certificate, let's put that to bed for what it really is for. A lot of people are trying to track it down where all the monies are and all the accounts are. You don't need to do that. The purposes I see, as I understand, and I see that birth certificate, it's an unregistered copyright, that we are a debtor, that has been hijacked from us for profits and exploitation through patent processes that we were excluded any rights to, that we are saying no, we are exchanging our bond, our debt bond, which is the birth certificate, for shares of stock with the corporation, with the United States corporation. And you know, a lot of people are going to say, oh, no, I don't want to be a part of a corporation. I don't want to be a part of it. That's where the constitutionalists are wrong, because they missed the 1790 Copyright Act. Yeah. That's our protection. That's our cestui, and that's our remedy. And that remedy is administrative. It's not in the court system. Are you going to sue us? Who are you going to sue? Who the hell are you going to sue?
Well, that's the thing. Then people, we missed that 1790 copyright, but we weren't thinking copyright. We're thinking status, we're thinking organic, we're thinking law, okay? And not even including, we think of copyright as business. So we think that's separate from the law that we were researching.
That's not right, though, either. Copyright's art. Copyright is art.
Well, see, I understand that now. I read the book Rulers of Evil, and in the first 2 chapters, it talks about copyrights going all the way back to the 1300s, and probably before. But the priests that were operating the government at the time, and what they were doing was they thought they were doing service to people, but they were actually became agents of the Vatican at that time. But they didn't know it either. The priests were doing a service to the people, so they were registering copyrights and trademarks for people. And when I read that in there, I thought, something clicked, you know, and I thought, okay, this is the connection. But that's the only connection that I see that is pertinent to what we're talking about here, because they did have a part in it, you know, at that point in time. But then they became agents of a more evil purpose later on, and they were being used as well, the very first ones that came in. And they portrayed themselves as service to the people.
They figured they had this birth certificate, this copyright thing. When the birth certificates come out, they were issued. What year? They weren't. I don't know when the first year that they were issued, but you always have the copyright there, and that copyright wasn't called the copyright; it's called something else, corporate soul or whatever. But that's always been, that's our human rights. That's our natural law right there, because that defines who we are. You know, our identity is who we are. And what they've done here is now you talk about legal fiction and the all caps name and the straw man. Yeah, that's our alter ego, so to speak.
Yeah.
But it's actually our all caps name is actually our trademark. Our signature is actually our common law copyright. So what you got to do though is you've got 2 different kinds of title here. You've got your legal title and you've got equitable title. Okay, so what's equitable? Equitable would be your commerce, would be your trademarks. Okay, that's equitable. That's in commerce. So now you're talking about UCC filing and all your properties and whatnot. But then you have a legal title. Well, what's your legal title? Now this is now according to the states and the counties. That would be our common law copyright. That is maps, periodicals, and surveys and books, and that's what they're keeping. Registries and all these things. So that's our unregistered copyright, which you're using in public law, right? That's public policy. But on the private side, what they've done is they've hijacked it from us so that they could profit from us. So what we have is we got a simple basic accounting right here. It's really a matter of resolving the left side of the books and right side of the books.
Right.
So what you need to do is you need to do a doctrine of merger, which is merging your legal title with your equitable title. Now, claiming a common law copyright is all well and good, but it doesn't go far enough because you can't copyright a name. Now, with U.S. copyright, it's the work of authorship. So the people that are filing your declaration of statuses with the county record and everything, that's great and wonderful, but you got to get it into the U.S. copyright, because U.S. copyright recordation, 1, it issues you back a certificate, and 2, it puts it into the worldwide record that this is who I am. I am Kenneth William Dost. I am living man. I am associated with this all caps name. This all caps name is my alter ego. I am the sole beneficiary. I'm the holder in due course. This is mine. And so you're making that claim as a legal claim, and you're taking title to it. You are standing out on your own as a living man, living woman, and saying, this is who I am. Challenge me. who's going to challenge you?
I don't see how they can. They can't challenge that. And it doesn't matter
because
the accounting of, where everything is and how much it is and all of that. Well, number one, it's unlimited because of what they've done. They've done a brilliant job of taking everything and fractionalizing us and moving us into different money-making ventures. So that's unlimited. So it's not like we're claiming any money. We're saying, hey, this is our identity, and we're claiming it now. And I'm alive.
Right.
I'm here. So when you do, okay, let's talk about the doctrine of merger for just a little bit, because I think people might get a little confused on that. When you're merging the public and the private side, you're also balancing the left side of the books with the right side of the books at the same time in commerce, correct?
Right. What you're doing is doctrine of merger is when the debtor and creditor meet face to face, but that person is the same person. And what you do, and you're always going to be the creditor for the reasons you just said, because we've been sold so many times over. We are the private equity, and it's our res, it's our lifeblood. That is a transmitting utility of energy, and so we're the driving force behind this country. We're the driving force for everything that's happening here. So you're always going to be the creditor in all cases. So what you've got is you got UCC 1.5, which would be your equitable. Okay, so you make that claim, but you still got a legal title out there. See, what they've got on us is they've got licenses on us. That's the thing. I mean, how many times have you heard? Oh, well, I beat U.S. Bank in my foreclosure case, and then 6 months later, Nation Star came after me too. And that's the problem. The problem here is not that it has nothing to do with anything other than copyright. It's they have the licensing rights over our identity, which we gave them through MERS unknowingly. Okay, so we've got to capture that back. How do you capture that back? You make your claim. You make your claim. I mean, you get the constitutionalists there that are running away from. They don't want to be a part of the United States. We're not a United States citizen. We don't want any part of the United States. So they disclaim it. But the question becomes then, well, how can you sit there and rebel against the federal government and against the United States, but then make a claim that you have entitlements of birthrights? How can you claim rights to a corporation that you don't want to be a part of?
Well, here's kind of what I think. Here's kind of what I think they're doing, and I see this from a realistic standpoint, and that is wanting to be above the statutes and codes and the corporate policy and getting outside of that.
Right.
But that's only one step now. When you're talking about copyrights and everything, now you're talking about all of the assets that go with the stuff that they have taken beyond that. It's a step beyond that.
Right.
So we can go ahead and change our status and be above these statutes and codes, but we haven't finished the job. We didn't finish the job. Right.
Well, and they've run in the opposite direction, because what they've done is, how many times have you seen? I mean, I've gotten castigated by some people on Facebook because I've said that you're going to run correction, and they say, well, hey, I can do what I want. The government's not around me anymore. I don't have to have a license. I got my 5-star passport. But can you operate in commerce?
Right.
Can you put gas in your car? I mean, it's impossible to operate. So those people are saying, I don't want part of the system. I want out of the system. You're going the wrong way, because you're never, ever, ever going to get your accounts. I mean, this is that Eric John Phelps. He went through Pennsylvania, and he got the decree for his name and everything. And then when he asked the marshal of the assets, they said they'll never happen. And it'll never happen. Why? Because he didn't want to be a United States citizen. You want to be a United States. Your all caps name is your United States citizen.
Well,
That's
not only that, but I believe
it's a debtor as it is now.
I believe he also went to a judge. And
well, he did. Yes, he went to a judge. I mean, I saw the paperwork on it. He went to the judge. The judge gave him what he wanted. He gave him his name. He gave him all rights, title, and sole beneficiary. But what's he going to do now?
So what? He's got a name. That's right.
So
he doesn't have all of the assets attached to that name, the unknown assets that have been hidden from him. And of course, how could he know? Well, you found that out through copyright. So now we take it a step further and get the rest of it. And the constitutionalists, and I don't want to call them a name because I am one. I've been researching this a long time from the constitutional level, and that's fine. But I'm realizing now that there's more to this, and I've seen a lot of processes and remedies and things that have come out there, and I've never gone for them. I've never bid for them, and I didn't know why. but I knew that there had to be something else that maybe I was missing, or I was unsure of myself. Maybe that's why, but there had to be more to this.
Yeah, I was the same way, I was the same way with when I saw Phelps paperwork, and I started going that route too, and I was advocating people go ahead and do go through probate. Remember, we had you and I had conversations on that.
We did.
And going into the exclusive equity. And that was right. It's the right thing to do. However, it's not the right thing to do. And that is and the reason for that is because the judges are on the take. The judges get a percentage of every foreclosed that there is. They also get a percentage of any kind of probate case as well. But the judges are, remember, the royalties administrators. So under their corporate administration laws, they're endeared to the contracts of the state and all the business aspects of the states. So they're not going to take an exclusive equity. They're not going to take it, and you haven't properly accorded yourself to it because you've excluded yourself from the system. So they're not going to marshal assets for you for a corporation that you don't want to be a part of. So I always talk about tipping the first domino. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? What's the goal here for all these people, for all of us? We want to be left alone, right? We want to be able to live our own lives. We want to be above the codes and statutes. We don't want to be, we don't want to deal with all these layer of uniform acts that we were never disclosed of and that we were supposed to know, and that are constantly changing. We want to be above that stuff because those are the things that hurt us. So what do we want to be? We want to be self-governing, right? And isn't that the point of wasn't that the point of the Constitution, was to be self-governing? It's a contract, right? It's the point to be self-governing. Well, okay. Well, how do you become self-governing? Well, you don't go and ask that. You don't go and do illegal. You don't have to go and fill out paperwork for a county judge or state judge in probate. Or legal names changed. Why don't you ask permission for that? Why don't you ask for permission to say that you're a real boy or a real girl? It makes no sense. But that's what people are doing. Yeah. And yes, I know a couple people that have succeeded with it, and they got a card, they got their debts paid, and they're getting like $4,000 a week or something. But I hate to tell them, it's only going to last for a couple months because it gets cut off after that. And they're going to be stuck because they're not going to know how to transact it from there. And worse, the IRS can come knocking on their door because they haven't properly accorded themselves yet. They haven't done it yet.
Oh, so all of those unpaid
into a system.
So I don't mean to interrupt. I know we have a delay, so I'm sorry about that. But so all of those, and this is one part I never understood, and I'm getting it now. So all of those unpaid taxes and all of those liabilities that go with that particular chunk that you think you're taking is going to come with it. So that's how you get screwed. If you don't go all the way, that's how you're going to get screwed.
Yeah. That's how you're going to get screwed because what you got to do is you want to liquidate all the bonds. Okay, now some other people are. I know a couple of people. I know a person in New Mexico who was operating successfully on bonds, but I hear tell that he's been complaining because he doesn't know how to get the money. He doesn't know how to get the accounts. He hasn't figured out the other key to this thing. He's still operating as a debtor, and he's in dangerous waters because he's playing with the bonds. I do understand where Rebecca comes from there. I don't want to play with the bonds either. We don't have to play with the bonds, okay? We don't have to do that because as a bond, as a debtor, we're outside the system. We're going to the incompetent and incapacitated. We're an adult incompetent. Okay, we're not competent to understand. We're not competent to have raised our kids properly because of citizenship issues that we never knew about. We never knew that our citizenship was taken away from us, and it was taken away from our kids through the Child Enforcement Act of 2000 that we never knew about. That's an immigration thing where they intentionally manipulated statuses of citizenship and naturalization so that they can hold us accountable for not raising our kids properly. That's one of the reasons why CPS comes in and it's so easy to take away our kids because we're incompetent. We're not incompetent. We never knew this stuff. But see, these are the things but this is all copyright. It all deals with identity. It all deals with the living man, living woman, the executor over the all caps fiction that's been created. And that's what it has to deal with. So those are the issues that we're dealing with. So when you go to what we're getting at here with everything is we want to convert that bond We're going to convert that bond to shares of stock. And what happens when you become a stockholder? You become a part of the corporation. Now, people are going to say, I don't want to be a part of the United States corporation. Yes, you do want to be a part of the United States corporation because the United States corporation has accumulated vast wealth for you. I mean, there's trust in this. Oh, you know it's from the MERS agreement. The MERS agreement says that there's segregated accounts. There's trusts that are set up. Of course, they're hidden from us, right? But we know they exist. That's prima facie admission that we're not a debtor.
And when you merge the two, and when you become the operator of that, you're above everything. Not only the codes and statutes, but you're above their banking system. You're above everything. And now you're in control.
Why is that? Why is that? Because what have you done? By converting that bond, what have you done? You've proven your life.
Yes. Yeah. Basically, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the first domino that you push that corrects the record. So what you're doing is you're creating a self-correcting record, and you're becoming self-governing. That's the importance of that birth certificate. Nothing else. Forget about all the money it's attached. Forget about all that stuff.
Right.
Forget all that shit. It's the difference between being an executor or being a slave, essentially. So what you're doing is when you convert that, you're becoming a stockholder. When you become a stockholder, you're protected. You're protected as a private person. Now you're an executor. Now what you do with that is good or evil. That's your decision at that point in time. It doesn't mean, people will say, oh, well, I don't want to be part of that evil machine. No, it's not the system that's evil. It's the people that set it up and run it that's evil. That's what's wrong with it. When you're now what you do with it, when you're an executor, go back to the Bible. That's your ultimate test, I guess. What kind of executor are you going to be, right? But see, these are the things that we're dealing with here. And so what they've done here is they've stolen our identity, and we've got to get it back. We're not going to get it back in the court system as it is now. We don't have the authority. But, however, now what you're doing is, and we know this from evidence is the MERS agreement, the Commonwealth of the State of Virginia, Commonwealth. Okay, so it takes cognizance of federal law, right? But it's also a commonwealth in the sense of custom. What is custom? The laws of England. Go back to your deed of trust. Go back to your mortgage. It says in there about MERS. It talks about in foreclosure. It says by whatever law or custom. So an English law term is in the deed of trust and mortgage. Custom is particular to English law, right? And
right.
So that's particular to the Commonwealth. So that's their connection to the international markets. And that's your connection to England, to good old jolly old England there. So what you're doing here is you're saying, wait a second, you have converted me to an accommodating party for federal public money. I'm not a mortgage loan whatsoever. You've stolen my identity, my energy, my res, my transmitting utilities, so on and so forth. And you have set up your written patents to exploit me and to profit for yourself. But worse, you've set me up so that you can defame my character. You have intentionally trespassed upon my property with the purposeful intent of accruing value to various inter vivos trusts that you have kept hidden from me with the express intention and purpose of foreclosing upon me and forcing an abandonment of property, which I didn't know about because I'm standing in a court that I thought was a court of judicial justice. And in fact, what it is, you're parading me in front of a royalties administrator to divvy up what's left of what I don't have because I don't have anything now. And you find me in financial incapacity. While behind my back, you bar attorneys are abandoning my property for me, and so you're stealing my estate. So you can collect on the living annuities, and you make me a ward of the state. Fuck you. You can't do that. You're not going to do that. So what we have to understand here is you got to understand who you are. So the question is, who are you? Who are you? And when you decide who you are, and you got to stick by it. And see, that's our greatest asset right there. That's our greatest asset is knowing who we are. Because once we convert ourselves, once we make that conversion back onto we use the expression back onto the land. But once we make that conversion to a stockholder, maybe that's a better way to put it. Instead of putting ourselves back on the land, why don't we talk in terms of what it really is? We're becoming a stockholder. at that point in time. We're saying we're not a debtor anymore. We're sophisticated in knowledge now. We realize that you've pulled a fast one on us, you sons of bitches, and we're exercising our remedy, and this is our remedy, and they have to provide us a remedy. And so what we're doing then we're saying, okay, now, Mr. IRS, here's the merge agreement. Here's proof that there's segregated accounts. There's trusts that have been set up. My identity's been stolen upon. I've been trespassed upon. Go get them. Now what you've got, because as an accommodating party for federal public money, you're putting money into key, and I can show this, I can illustrate this in judges, and other people can't do this, judges because it take foreclosures. I can illustrate through the ridiculous processes that the state has set up to maintain workflow, which is documents, and maintain depositories of documents, and how the flow of documents, and how key employees are getting awarded for doing their meeting quotas or whatever to process these documents. Then you've got the assessors that are assessing not our real property, they're assessing our health, our life, our value as an asset. And against that is all these private annuities and everything. So what you've got is state officials, judges, and key employees taking federal public money from who? From private persons, because now we put ourselves back on the land, we put ourselves a stockholder, now go after them. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm not going to go after, I'm an executive, I don't have to go after that. That's your job. Right?
Yeah, and for the people like myself, I'll call them constitutionalists, but I'm one. The people that have been researching on a different track for all of this time, which is it's still valuable because it adds to the whole thing. We are learning now. We need to ask 3 questions of ourselves. Who are we? What do we want to do with our lives, and what do we want to be? Mm-hmm. So we can go to one of those levels that we choose to go to and do whatever it is then we choose to do with that level, good or bad.
Right.
And it's our choice.
We don't have to live. These are choice. 2 points. First point, going back to the Constitution, is what you said about that they're not wrong on everything. The common law grand jury is a fantastic idea, but it goes through copyright through the federal government to get to that point, in my opinion. Because now what you've done, now that you put yourself back on, make yourself a stockholder and stakeholder, and put yourself back on the land as a living man, living woman, now you've got your constitutional self, right? Now you can do the common law grand juries. But you might not even have to do that because you got the IRS that can go after them. The IRS will go after them because they're pissed off. They got just trillions of dollars that they've extorted from the people of this country, and they've done it through copyright. They've done it through identity theft. They did it through that MERS agreement. And so what you're doing here is we have to ingratiate ourselves with the federal government. We don't want to isolate ourselves from the federal government. The federal government is holding our accounts. They're the way to get our accounts back to us. It's administrative. It's not. We don't have to go now. At the end of the day, if you shouldn't even be filing a case. Nobody should be in court on any of these matters unless they've exhausted all their administrative remedies. Mm-hmm. So what do you have now? Now you do have a lot of problems with these foreclosure mill attorneys, because these foreclosure mill attorneys are knowingly violating our right to due process, our equal protection, our First Amendment rights by pretending a judicial matter, and the same thing with the judge. The judge is pretending a judicial matter, which is really, he's acting as an administrator in international maritime law. And as such, they don't have subject matter jurisdiction to haul our asses into court because we haven't exhausted our administrative remedies because we never knew about them. Because they had this bullshit game in place saying that everything is ordinary course. Well, you strip away that ordinary course and it all falls apart. Now let's get to the patents, because that's where it all comes into play. So okay. Do we have the copyright in order?
Yes, we have. I believe we have the copyright in order.
One more thing on the copyright. What they did, like of MERS is a registered service mark, trademark. Mm-hmm. So what they did was and we can prove this. I can prove it through hundreds of documents. What they did is they incorporated our common law copyright trade name into their trademarks. and they take all right title and interest to this, and they're claiming it to they're attaching it to a piece of software in the case of Mindbox, right? So they've incorporated your legal title into commerce, into a trademark, and it never got disclosed to us. So in practical terms, what they did, a good illustration of this is Elizabeth, I forgot her name was. It was an English thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? I said that to you.
Yes, that case.
And it was, yeah, well, it wasn't a case. It was a trademark. And what it was this Elizabeth, whatever her name was, and she had like a clothing line. So she claimed all this. She claimed shoes, hats, tops, everything else. Well, the attorney at the bottom of that thing wrote that Elizabeth is a living woman and she understands this. See what they did there? They incorporated her common law copyright, her name, identity, into a work of fiction, which is a trademark service mark, which is good. So they associated, they connected the living woman with her goods and her property, and
it just got swallowed up. It got swallowed up.
It got swallowed up, and they do this time and time again. And that's what they've done. So that's why it's so important to understand the concept behind this. I realize this concept. I get it. There's a lot of material here. It's understanding the concept. Once you understand the concept of who you are, it's not just a matter of saying that you're a living man, living woman. I'm a real boy, I'm a real girl. It's a matter of understanding the copyright behind that, what they're doing with that copyright, and how they're using that against us. Not just on the private side to profit from us, but to harm us on the county and state side, because that's a misnomer. It's a misnomer, number one, for in all caps name, but it's also a defamation of our character. It's not a fair assessment of who we are, because it's not balancing the books. Okay, the only way you can balance the books is when you do the doctrine of merger. When you do that U.S. copyright, you've established your legal title. You said, this is who I am. I am. This is me. You know, I'm self-governing. I'm an executive. I don't want a part of your system. Prove that I'm not me, because we know that codes and statutes don't apply to living people, right? We know that.
That's
right. They
right.
apply to fictions. We know that. So when I make my claim to copyright as a living man, that's just who I am. Who's going to prove me wrong?
They can't.
Who's going to throw me in jail for proving me wrong? You can't prove me. You can't tell me that. You can't tell me that. You can't say that you're going to profit from me and you're going to apply codes and statutes to me using my name when I'm claiming. That's fine. That's mine. That's not yours. That's mine. That's for my benefit, not yours. I just didn't know it.
And what they can throw you in jail for is taking all of these benefits all these years, and granted, they're all meager and they're breadcrumbs and they're bullshit, but you're still taking them in their eyes. And then you're going back to them and saying, fraud, I don't want to be this. And you can't do that.
No. Well.
So they're trapping you. They're entrapping a lot of people in that respect, because you can't, we're here taking what they consider, we're taking what they consider benefits all this time. And then we're saying, no, you stole from me. You stole my identity. You stole this, you stole that, without actually being able to identify what that was. And the copyright does that. That is that link.
The copyright gives you the authority to say that.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. It gives you the authority. You don't have you can claim the common law copyright and common law trademark, and you can, and some people are having success with that, but I don't think it's going to be long lived.
Yeah.
It's going to be short lived, because your legal, you got to have a legal, you can't claim a name as a copyright. And on all these documents that were put on, all these patents that were put on, all these business processes that were put on, our signatures being applied to it, but it's the document itself. So the document that says we're alive, the claim that we're alive, and saying that we're alive, and the recordation of that in U.S. copyright jumps us off into the international markets, because it's for all the world to see, and we get a certificate, nice little certificate from it. And then under copyright law, this is under copyright law for a mortgage. You do a transfer and a termination of license, and you have every right to do that because you made the claim. You've got legal title. This is who I am. I'm a living man. I terminate all your licenses because your licenses, your codes and statutes have harmed me, and I can prove it. I've got the patents here to prove it. And they've harmed me, and I'm terminating all licenses. Prove me wrong. So that's your legal title.
They can't.
Now you got your UCC. You got your legal title. You go into Treasury. You convert the bond. doctrine of merger, your debtor meets your creditor, and all debt eviscerates because you're full faith and credit, and you're never a debtor.
And you are now self-governing. You are now collecting all of your assets. You're not just collecting part of it. You're not saying, here, I want the good part, and you keep the bad part, which people get thrown in jail for that too. So you're claiming it all, and you're doing it, what should I say, transparently. You're doing it administratively.
You got to understand, you are a debtor. We are debtors.
Right.
Okay. You can't just say you can't say I'm not a debtor. You are a debtor. Okay. But what you're showing with that merge agreement, you're showing that your credit outweighs your debt, and you know that. How do you know that? Because the measly $350,000 or whatever it is that they're foreclosing upon, they've created concealed trusts in your name using your signature, your identity, that they converted to a private key. And segregated the accounts and everything, and we know all that by the patents and everything. So we know the processes that they've done against us. So we've got to be smart now. We've got to be smart. We got to grow up. We got to put our big boy and big girl pants on and deal with it.
Industrial strength underwear. That's what I call it.
Right, and we got to deal with that. Right? So let's talk about a couple patents then.
Okay.
And because that's really what we're talking about. When we talk about patents, people their eyes kind of glaze over what we're talking about. And there's hundreds of patents. I mean, thousands of patents.
Okay, I have to watch the time. I've got about 15 minutes. Can you do this in 15 minutes?
Yeah, we can do this in 15 minutes.
Okay.
We'll do this real quick. Okay, we've got I'm going to find one here. I'm looking for one particular one. Okay, here's one. Okay. Here's that's in the structure of real estate assets. Now, this is from Hutton Williams. Now, Hutton Williams represents Merrill Lynch, and I understand that they represented Beal, Andy Beal, and Beal was taken to everybody's house. This patent here, this is a process by patent attorneys that have structured real estate assets for the theft of real estate assets, and they go into great detail here, defining who we are. Defining that we're leasing the asset, and they also say in here that they're intentionally concealing the assets and not putting the books together and not giving us all disclosures that we're entitled to. And they're saying that we can go ahead and do that. So what they're doing here is this is the behind the scenes of what you're not seeing when they file that wrongful foreclosure against you. This is prima facie evidence that what they've done here is they've engineered a process to make you believe that you're a debtor so that they can steal your assets.
Okay. Okay, so for practical purposes, we're going to post these documents along with this video, and maybe just audio. We'll probably put it up on Adventures into Sovereignty and maybe some other sites. Of course, put it on your Facebook page, and then we'll have these documents with this recording.
Yes, so that's fine. That's good. That's perfect. Now we know. Now here I know for sure that the secretaries of state are committing treason. They've allowed for the bar attorneys to tell them how to operate and how to change our statuses to the Uniform Business Entities Act. So what they've done here is this goes to our status now. What they've done here is they've literally made us stateless, essentially, because what they've done on the Secretary of State side, they've created corporations and LLCs, which are hiding the trusts and everything. But to get those tax write-ups and those tax shelters, what they've done is they've operated through the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, and they have taken out electronic visas, and they have made us foreign residents, foreign citizens in England and Australia, and they've shipped us all over the world so that we are essentially foreign grantor. We're foreign grantor trust is what we are. So what they're doing is they have intentionally altered our status so that they can acquire the tax shelters upon which we got Hutton Williams patent. They can come back when they want to foreclose, and they can domesticate us. That's when our U.S. citizens, who are all caps name, right? So that they can foreclose upon us and hit us with the taxes while they run away with the tax shelters. And this patent right here is a computerized method and system for financing by EB5, Investor Visa Beneficial Center. And this is telling you how they do it, how they are converting the unknown, you and me, into an international trader in commerce, an armchair trader, basically. And we don't even know it. So they're using our identity. This is the thing about it. They're not using other names here. They're using our identity, which has been recharacterized by some other identifier. And that identifier in this case is not so much our name, but it's a code. Okay, it's a private key code. So, but it all comes back to us because we're the ones that are executing the documents. We're the ones that are donating our assets to them, and we're the ones that are intentionally walking away from our properties. Which we're not walking away from anything. We never knew that this has nothing to do with real property. This has to do with estates. This has to do with our heirs and beneficiaries. This has to do with the assets that they've taken away from our kids. And the harm that they've committed to our kids and our lineage. And so these are the things that we're dealing with here. Now, these patents go on and on. And here's one from, now here's a very good one from an income trust. This is where Canada gets involved now. Okay, this is where Mindbox in Canada gets involved.
That's what I wanted to get to. We have a lot of Canadian friends, especially Canadian and Australian, that are very interested in your work. And I have a couple of friends that are studying on their end, and they get a little blockaded because there's a Canadian equivalent of everything. Is it NAFTA or what is the connector there?
Well, the connector is that it's by treaty. There's a treaty, a free trade. There's no border. It's borderless between Canada and America. Okay. And it's by treaty. I don't know what the treaty is offhand, but what they've done here is they consider us basically one country, really. And what they're doing is because in Canada, income trusts, which is what is drawing income from these intravenous trusts out there, what they are is they're not. Let's see if I find a quote here. I can't find a quote in this one, but what it says in this patent, it says that income trusts are not favorable in the United States. They're looked down upon. They didn't say they were illegal. They said they're not favorable in the United States. But what they're doing is they're bouncing the income trusts, the REIT part of the trust, up to Canada so that they can collect on it, and then they bring it down here to the United States. So they're hiding the fact that of these income-generating trusts. They're hiding. They're keeping everything offshore, so to speak.
Okay, so it's like money laundering, but it is money laundering. I mean, what they've done here, they've engineered. Now, you can understand, patents are just words. I mean, now they're codes. There's codes that go with these things, and that's how they operate. Because they're coded by keys. They're coded by various languages and everything, which, by the way, are all posted on the Library of Congress. There's like 7 or 8 different languages, and how they recharacterize it. So when we're talking about taking back our name and converting our name, we're saying all derivations of the name. It's very, very important that we make the distinction that you converted my handwritten signature and my image to a coded digital PKI private key, and you never gave me a copy of it. And if I'm the investor, I'm the holder in due course, and I'm the control, and I have control of my own destiny, which these patents say you do. These patents are for us. These patents are for us. But what they're doing is they are taking us out of the equation because this is their money stream. Okay, so as long as they can hide this from us, and they can call us debtors and say, "Hey, you're a debtor," they got their scheme works for them. And to the outside world, you and I look like a lunatic. Well, you know what? You're going to be the next one because they're done with us. They can't take anything else from us. They got everything from us. So it's going to be the next batch of people. So what they've done here, this is an intention. This is a crime in some blatant proportions. And the beautiful part about it is we can prove it. We can prove it because hundreds of patents. It talks about how they recharacterize us, how they forge documents, how they create assets, how they take it, how they intentionally don't disclose things to us, how they intentionally are wired into the judge's chambers, how all these, and these are all codes and statutes, right? Form Acts, but it's all administrative because that's all codes and statutes are, is administrative. So we don't want to go into the court system. We could go into the court system. We could sue them for a tortious interference of an anticipated inheritance, because that's what these patents are. These patents have taken. These patents can take a 30-year mortgage and pay it off in no time flat and accumulate hundreds of thousands of dollars. And there's all different kinds of schemes. So we're attached to so many different patents. We'll never get them all. We'll never get them all. But the only way that we're going to get them, the most important aspect of this, and these are the people that are transacting right now out of New Mexico and Tim Damron. The thing that he doesn't get, and the thing that other people don't get yet, because they're operating in the bonds, they don't understand
that the most important conversion, this is what people need to understand, the most important conversion, the most important title to get is that U.S. copyright. That's your legal claim. You have to have that, and you have to do a termination of licenses. Why? Because by the operation of law, when license terminate, title revests back to the owner. That's copyright law. That's what we want to do. Because at that point in time, that's when we take control of everything. Okay, that's when we can say, okay, this is who we are. I own this. I never got issued a private key. Now this is where they're going to start getting in trouble, because all these agencies, DHS, USTPO, they're all issuing PKI private digital keys. Well, we didn't know about this stuff. We didn't know about this stuff because we weren't informed that we had investment possibilities here to grow our estates for ourselves through these patents. We didn't know that because we were told that we had a mortgage loan. We believed it. We fell for that line of shit. So it's really, it's not, yes, everything around it's complicated. I understand that. But the simplicity of what they've done here is really, what did they do? What first thing they did? They stole our right to our name without our permission. Okay? 1790 Copyright Act tells you right there. If they did not get your permission, right? I think it's 3 times the amount. They didn't get our permission. We did not give them permission to do that. And the Merged Nations Bank Agreement has prima facie evidence of that, right?
Exactly.
They converted us to fictitious business names, business names, corporations names. They did that to the state. Okay, they didn't do that without our permission. The IRS backs us on that. The IRS was said out of a Texas case that it is not for the state to choose one status. That's for that's for the individual, not for the state to choose that. Well, the state has done that for us. Okay, but what they're doing now is so you've got so when I go to Treasury, I don't think Treasury even knows this. Here's what I think. I think Treasury got caught up in something that they really were clueless about. As far as all these underlying patents, I don't think they have a clue about all these underlying patents. I don't think they have a clue about Mindbox. And I think when TARP happened, they were hoodwinked. They had no choice. They had to do something. They had to do that. But I really do not believe in my heart of hearts that they know anything about Mindbox. I think they're going to be blown away by this thing. And they've got a big problem. The big problem is everybody's identity has been stolen. I mean, you can't. How can you steal somebody's identity and not tell them about it, and make all those profits on that person, then come back and foreclose and take everything that person owns away from them? But that's what they're doing, because it's the state agencies or the federal agencies, DHS, Treasury, all these other agencies have programs for federal contractors to make money and operate in Canada. Well, what have they done? What are these loan servicers? These loan servicers and the collection agents, they're federal contractors. And
also, at the same time, they're accommodating parties to a crime. Every one of them. That's
right. They're accommodating, and they're knowing it. So you got Bill Dallas. I know you got to go here, but you got Bill Dallas. You know, we talk about him all the time.
Yep.
Owning mortgage. He owned Mindbox for a while. He proliferated this. He owned a System. System is ISO standards and procedures, and it's also insurances, right? So what he did was he engineered, so he didn't a mortgage loan up, but he was selling us into servitude, for Christ's sake, and he was taking all the rights to it, and he got the insurance end of it covered through ISO and through Mindbox. Mindbox is we'll get this in there. I got the agreement, the trademark agreement that talks about the rights that Mindbox takes of all common law copyright. They take everything, okay? And that they say that the purpose of Mindbox and Brightware is to spread it throughout the world as a technology base. And that's exactly what they did. I mean, the banks, they're the base layer of everything, of all state agencies, of all federal agencies, of all banks, of all financial services, of all insurance industries, and they operate on an embedded code. Okay, they're the front end and back end of business by their trademark, and they're also art. So they went in and they recorded art. And it's a copyright. And what are copyrights? Works of art, right? They recorded art. So they captured art. What does art stand for? Automated reasoning tool. It's future forecasting. It's artificial intelligence. And then what they did is you got Bill Dallas here. You got the loan originators, Countrywide, and all these loan originators here, right? Deutsche Bank and all these guys. That's the front end. And then they intentionally go bankrupt and go through. They're using the bankruptcy courts and using the 1933 Bankruptcy Act to go ahead and eviscerate all their debt, but they're assigning their de minimis assets, their general intangibles, to the other side of bankruptcy, and they're keeping the value in it for the back end for our name and our identity, and then they're collecting through GSA, because now what happens, we were never federal employees. We became federal employees when they filed a default against us, and that attorney signed a will be dead opinion before they issued the foreclosure. So what happens in any case like that, it becomes any kind of debtor, any kind of action, it automatically falls under federal receivership. Fannie Mae, we signed Fannie Mae documents, whatever in Fannie Mae. Fannie Mae is under federal receivership, right? So when they defaulted us, we go under federal receivership, we become an employee of the federal government that is fucked up, basically. And we'll be administered to by the back end of MindBox in a fixed process that began when they set us up at the front end through the origination, so that they could take all the benefits away from us, and all they give us is the measly squanderings that we get when they make us awarded the state.
We get the breadcrumbs. We get the breadcrumbs. And this last part that you've been talking about now with MindBox a little bit more, I want to get into that the next call we have, if you don't mind.
Okay.
And
absolutely.
And also the Bankruptcy Act, because I think the people that have been studying Constitution and organic law would be very interested in that. And also and then go back a little bit more into the 1790 Copyright Act and see how all that fits together, so people understand that how all of these things fit together. So I want to do that on the next one.
Okay, well, I hope this does help. I mean, I'm trying to make it as simple as for people to understand. And I get a lot of people on Facebook saying, "Well, what's the steps? What's 1, 2, 3 steps?" Forget about what the steps are. Understand who you are first.
Right. You have to know that, and the steps will fall into place. Like you said, make your claim, be alive, and then where do you want to go from there? Where do you want to go from there?
And we will go somewhere. We will get remedies here, because we have a remedy.
Yes.
We know exactly what they've done here. And yes, at some point in time, they're gonna pay for it. But my opinion of this is, hey, you guys did a great job. Just give me my assets, and then walk away. Let the IRS handle it. Let the agencies handle it. The agencies are waiting for us.
Yeah, that's their job. Yeah, that's their job.
And all the agencies aren't bad. The IRS is not bad. The IRS is bad but it's what position you're in. Are you going to come in as a debtor? And mispaying your taxes or whatever, that's one thing. But if you're coming in and saying, wait a second here, they stole from me. That's identity theft. I guess I told you I had a friend in Alaska that talked to a IRS CID officer, and the guy said, "Well, where were you? We've been waiting for you to come in." They are waiting for us. Use the word breadcrumbs. Right. All these agencies have breadcrumbs out there. As a matter of fact, you've got OMB, there's about 30 or 40 at least different documents out there awaiting public review, public comment, that are talking about just these things. But we don't know this stuff. We think that we're isolated out there. We got no help. We got a load of people out there that want to help us, but we got to bring a claim to them. And they say, "Oh, we did this stuff. They didn't inform us." They're informing us now. They're saying, "Here, this stuff for public review. Make a comment on it." I'm going to start posting that stuff up so we can start making comments on that stuff, because they know that we're the equity owners. They know that we've been stolen from. But we've got to make the claim, and it's not going to be by court case.
No, it's not. And once we do make our claim, taking any of that to any court anyway is going to make them run the other direction. So,
well, yeah, because
that's how powerful you become. That's right.
Yes,
that's how powerful you become.
That's how powerful you become. So really, the reason why I want to do this today is because there are people out there that just, they don't get it yet. They're still tunnel vision, and they're still thinking, what are the steps? What are the steps? Forget what the steps are right now. I mean, the steps are UCC 1, U.S. copyright, and Treasury. Those are the steps. Okay, they're being refined, and it doesn't matter if we get them wrong, in my opinion, because it's all administrative. And as long as you put in your statement that you're exercising your administrative process to the best of your knowledge, right, and that if you committed any kind of wrongful act, you didn't know it, you didn't do it willingly, you're covered. You're not going to go to jail.
You have the right. You have the right to amend in administrative law. So you always have the right to amend, and you put that clause in there, and you're fine. That's right. But people are always looking for templates. They're always looking for, well, tell me step by step. No, you need to know who you are first. You need to know how all this happened. You need to know where everything is and how to make your claim, and be that person that makes your claim. Once you do, you don't need templates and you don't need steps. You know what to do, right?
Right. And when also too, this is an individual thing. This is personal. This is my identity that was stolen. It's my accounts are my accounts. They're not your accounts. You got your own accounts.
Right.
So you have to. This is not going to be something that you're gonna. And we don't want it to become a big class action. That's the last thing we want.
Right. We don't. That class action was designed so that there wouldn't be a remedy. That's the breadcrumbs. That's the breadcrumbs right there. And then once they do that, Ken, then they don't have to take any more responsibility because they've settled it. You see? That's
unless we stand on our ground.
Well, no, we have to stand our ground. But I mean, with the mortgage program that they had out there, the states were getting federal money, they said, and then they were going to distribute it to the people that got harmed through these class action. No, nobody got anything. And the ones that did got just a little bit.
But the attorney general gets to administer that.
Yeah.
So the attorney generals are crooked too.
Right. And the people think, oh, we got remedy now. It wasn't much, but okay, then the matter settled, and then they move on and not realizing that they were just screwed. So you don't want to do class action suits in anything. Your
greatest power is understanding who you are.
Yes.
And that's when you understand who you are. And I'm not through the process yet. I still got things I got to put through Treasury yet, but I know I'm going with it because I've studied it and I know exactly where it's going. That's the way to go.
Yeah.
Because they have to run. And anybody who's thinking, well, what are you talking about this? No, just go on Treasury. Go to Treasury's site. Go to Treasury. Start reading the documents. It's littered throughout there. They talk about doing business with people for an equal exchange of debt and credit. What does it tell you? That's your offset right there. So all this stuff is out there, and there's agencies out there for us. But you got to understand. You don't have to understand every patent. Just understand what's going on here, how they stole your identity, how they converted it, and how you are the beneficial grantor to dozens of patents that you've been excluded from. Make the claim. Make the claim. I mean, I think that's a lot of power. I mean. And as we talk about this more, and as this starts infiltrating out there, damn well bar attorneys are going to be listening to this. Judges are going to be listening to this.
Sure.
That's a benefit. That's a benefit because they're going to know that, hey, these people are getting smart. So maybe they're not going to do as many foreclosures now because they're going to know that, oh shit, he's going to come back and fight me in the ass at some point in time because he's going to come back for my bond. And that's the power behind this thing. You don't have any power until you convert onto the land, until you convert from a bondholder to a stockholder.
And become alive, to do it. You have to just do that. And I know it's easy to say, but I'm starting to get that point of it. I mean, I had to feel that inside, who I am. I know who I am, but you got to feel it. And then after that, the next step is the drive to be it, whatever that may be. Yeah. So no one's saying that you have to do this. No one's saying that it's the only way to do anything, to accomplish anything in life. Everybody's got their own drive and their own goals. But if you want to take what's yours and you want to go all the way because you feel it's the right thing to do for you, then do it.
It's the price of freedom.
Right. It's freedom. It's freedom. So, okay, we're going to do.
It is the price of freedom. No.
We're going to.
I know, you got to go.
Yeah, I love you so much. You're just wonderful. Thank you so much for everything that you do. We all love you so much. And we're going to do this again. And next time and I want to talk about that treaty too. Maybe go into some of the treaties too, because I don't think people understand the significance of them.
That's one thing I want to add. One thing before you go.
Yeah.
We don't want to start. We want to keep this as natural law, common law. We don't want to start citing cases. We don't want to start using. We don't want to do any of that stuff. We want to keep it all common language because we don't want to bait these bar attorneys into a lawsuit that's going to drag out for years or class action. It's simple. It's simple. You stole my hog. I want my hog back. Damn it.
Right. Give it back.
I mean, that's really what it is. I mean, we don't want to get, because the laws are complicated. You're getting a trademark, you're getting a copyright. These guys can tie us up for years. We don't need that shit.
Right.
Make the claim, plain English.
Yeah. Come alive, make your claim, and prove me wrong.
That's right. That's it.
You rock. You just rock. I love you. And yeah, we're going to do this again. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sue.
All right.
I'm glad we